of the National Defence Union, SANDU. And lastly, did the Special Investigating Unit, the SIU, act in haste and make a blunder in its investigation into one Hangwani Maumela and the much publicized seizure of luxury supercars linked to him? The corruption-busting unit has been ordered to hand back a small fleet of luxury supercars that it seized as part of the sprawling Tembisa Hospital corruption probe, in a ruling that underscores how hard-fought the legal battles around asset preservation have become. The special tribunal that hears cases emanating from the SIU has instructed the SIU to return Aston Martins, Ferraris, and a Rolls-Royce linked to the suspected looting syndicate member Hangwani Maumela, while investigations into an alleged multi-billion rand tender scandal continue. The long and short of it is that the special tribunal was told that the SIU was aware that in terms of the e-Natus documentation, the ownership of those vehicles was with a car dealership in Witbank in Mpumalanga, but didn't play open cards with the special tribunal about that knowledge of the existence of that e-Natus documentation that proves ownership being with that car dealership in Mpumalanga. For its part, the SIU insists that the decision of the special tribunal does not weaken its case, and that it maintains that the dealership was being used as a proxy, and that the money flow, if you follow the money, it can be traced from the alleged hospital syndicate all the way to the cars. There's a direct linkage to that. So what we will do is unpack all of that with Kaiser Khanyago, who speaks on behalf of the SIU. That conversation coming up at about 8:20. The Morning Brief team is formidable. It's primed, it's ready, willing and able to serve up all of your updates throughout the morning. Like clockwork, and Musa will be at the news desk with your updates at the top and at the bottom of every hour. Zaikan will tell us who's feeling on top of the world this morning and who is utterly dejected following the sporting weekend that we've had. And Rob Byrne will guide you on which routes to take and which ones to avoid altogether on your commute this morning, with updates every 20 minutes or so. Melissa Buta just walked into studio to complete your picture with the Morning Brief in brief. And Dowling Lichela, babes wa machankura. Always right on the money with business and economic updates every hour, and Sipho Mantula with the Africa update at about 7 this morning. This is the Morning Brief. Context, consequence, and conversation starting now.
As the nation seeks answers, SAFM brings you live, uninterrupted coverage of Parliament's ad hoc committee investigating allegations made by KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Commissioner, Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. You can also stay up to date with the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into criminality, political interference, and corruption in the criminal justice system. Stay informed, stay connected. Tune in live on SAFM 104 to 107 and follow the coverage across our digital platforms live on Facebook, X, and YouTube at SAFM Radio. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Big stories of the day. Hashtag the Morning Brief.
All right, to kick us off with Melissa Buta in studio with the Morning Brief in brief. Good morning to you, Melissa. Overcrowding? What overcrowding in public hospitals? What are you talking about? Those people just want to be there on the floor. What are you talking about?
I mean, look, it's questionable. We're not sure if this is a thing. So good morning, Thulasizwe. Gauteng Health MEC Nomantu Nkomo Ralehoko has come under fire on two fronts. She denied an overcrowding crisis in provincial hospitals, claiming bed shortages are being managed, and controversially suggesting that some patients choose to sleep on the floor despite available beds. She also allegedly restricted media photography in hospitals, sparking backlash from opposition who accuse her of being out of touch with the dire conditions within the hospitals, poor hygiene, low staff morale, and long patient waiting times. At the same time, the MEC is defending former health HOD Lesiba Malotane, whom she calls the department's best ever leader, despite the SIU flagging him as high risk in a lifestyle audit linked to the alleged corruption at Tembisa Hospital and a 1.6 million rand in suspicious cash deposits. Critics say both controversies point to a leadership crisis in Gauteng's health department. So quite an interesting one, and she's getting quite a lot of backlash because what do you mean?
As you can imagine,
Of course.
as you can imagine. So 27 years after we first sent troops into the DRC, and exactly about a year since that bruising and deadly battles with the M23 rebels, we're winding it down. We're completely withdrawing from the DRC.
Yes, so South Africa has announced that it will withdraw its more than 700 troops from the UN peacekeeping mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo, ending nearly 27 years of continuous deployment since 1999. The presidency said the decision is driven by the need to consolidate and realign South African National Defence Force resources. President Cyril Ramaphosa communicated the unilateral withdrawal to the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres on the 12th of January of this year, with the withdrawal to be completed before the end of 2026. While exiting the UN peacekeeping mission, South Africa reaffirmed its commitment to peace and stability within the DRC through continued bilateral relations and regional and multilateral initiatives via the SADC and the AU and the UN.
Lastly, let's talk more issues to do with provincial departments of health. The one in the Eastern Cape is dealing with a situation that was quite prevalent in the country, I think around 2024, leading to all of those measures around the control and registrations of spaza shops.
Yes. So the Eastern Cape Health Department has activated emergency and outbreak response protocols after 2 children died from suspected food poisoning. On February 7th, which is last week, 6 children from Msinzi near Berlin and 1 from NU3 in Mdantsane, aged between 2 and 7, were admitted to Cecilia Makiwane Hospital with symptoms including vomiting, diarrhea, dizziness, and weakness. 4 children have since been discharged. 1 remains in critical care at Frey Hospital and 2 died upon arrival at the hospital. Investigations are underway, including post-mortems, collection of clinical and food samples, and inspections of local food outlets. Environmental health, hospital staff, SAPS, and the municipal authorities are coordinating a multi-sectoral response while providing clinical and social support to the affected families. So hopefully they do deal with that and it doesn't become another crisis.
All right, Melissa, thank you for that. That's Melissa Puta with the Morning Brief in brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
As far as your Monday morning weather goes, there are 2 warnings from the Weather Service. One is a yellow level 4 warning. Yellow level 4 warning, and it is in place over the Overberg District Municipality and Langeberg local municipality in the Western Cape, as well as the southern parts of KwaZulu-Natal. That yellow level 4 warning is for severe thunderstorms leading to flooding, and that is that yellow level 4 warning. Then there's a yellow level 2 warning, and it is in place over the city of the Cape Metro municipality. The Cape Metro municipality, Cape Winelands, and Central Karoo local municipalities in the Western Cape, the extreme eastern parts of the Northern Cape, southwestern parts of the Free State, as well as the Jogabi, Chris Hani, excluding Inqubayethemba district municipalities, Matatiele, Umzimvubu, Ntabankulu, and Mhlonhlo local municipalities in the Eastern Cape. That yellow level 2 warning is for severe thunderstorms leading to localized flash flooding and large amounts of small hail. So the rest of your weather then looks like this. Pretoria, partly cloudy, 20 to 32. Johannesburg, partly cloudy, 17 to 27. Vereeniging, partly cloudy, 18 to 30. Mbombela, cloudy in the morning, becoming partly cloudy, 19 to 29. Polokwane, cloudy in the morning, becoming partly cloudy, 16 to 27. Mahikeng, partly cloudy with isolated afternoon thunder showers, 18 to 32. Bloemfontein will be partly cloudy with scattered afternoon thunder showers, 16 to 30. Kimberley, partly cloudy with scattered afternoon thunder showers, 18 to 31. Uppington, partly cloudy with isolated afternoon thunder showers, 23 to 35. Cape Town will be cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 21 to 28. George, cloudy with scattered afternoon showers and thunder showers, 19 to 25. Gqeberha, cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 22 to 27. East London will be cloudy with widespread showers and thunder showers, 21 to 28. Durban, partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 22 to 30. Richards Bay will be partly cloudy with isolated morning showers and thunder showers, 23 to 33. And lastly, Pietermaritzburg will have morning fog, otherwise partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 19 to 32.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
24 minutes after 6. Well, she took what many called a big gamble, and it appears to have paid off. Japan's Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi, who had pledged to resign if her party lost its parliamentary majority, now looks set to stay firmly in office as her ruling bloc cruises towards a landslide victory in a snap election she called just months into the job. Projections from the public broadcaster in Japan, NHK, show Takaichi's Liberal Democratic Party not only regaining control of parliament, but doing so decisively after years of scandal and political drift under her predecessors. The result gives Japan its first female prime minister, female prime minister a powerful mandate to pursue a conservative agenda built on populist spending promises, nationalist rhetoric, and tougher stances on immigration and security. Let's speak to Professor David Munyai, the director of the Center for Africa-China Studies at the University of Johannesburg. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. It wasn't even close. A landslide victory. The LDP-led coalition, 352 of the 465 seats in Japan's House of Representatives. What won it for them?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Indeed, I think this was an outcome that favors her a great deal in the sense that she now has legislative power behind her. She'll be able to change laws and move on with core issues that she campaign on. I think major issues, economic reform, issues of suspension of the consumption tax, the living cost, which most Japanese had issue with. Economy, but beyond economy, issues of reform in terms of the security of the country. Foreign policy-wise, we see an assertive prime minister with huge challenges, particularly with neighbors, China, but making also inroads with South Korea on the other hand. So this is a huge advantage for a prime minister that was not sure whether she will stay longer, given the endless shift of leadership in Japan.
And there seems, over and above the policies you outline and the issues that she has championed, there seems to be a certain personal popularity. I mean, ratings show her approval hovering somewhere in the range of 70%. This is a sharp contrast with the past two predecessors, and one of whom the Liberals lost their majority in both houses in 2024. What has she got going for her?
I think we see the Conservative much more, Japan going more to the right, as many countries as we see in the US and others. Japanese are falling in love with her for the mere fact that she appears to be assertive and different from the previous leaders. in terms of decisiveness, even though we're not sure whether what she's suggesting will work, given the fact that the entire regional as well as global environment has fundamentally shifted in the past few years.
And there's this whole issue around the pacifist posture as far as defense is concerned in Japan. She's had this ambition of revisiting that. Now she's projected, her coalition projected to hold a 2/3 majority. Does that open that up in the broader context, geopolitically, revisiting that stance, that pacifist stance?
Well, indeed, I think on that one, she's more likely to make some moves and succeed. However, there will be tension because on one hand, the economy is not doing well. The US in particular and many other Western countries prefer Japan to change and take much more lead. I think for US, it's not just the sake of changing that law, but for the US to pull out of that part, which is the agenda of President Trump. But without a strong economy, a stronger army, so I think there will be those tensions to rearm. You need to spend more money, and at the moment, Japanese economy is not doing well.
Let's say a bit more about that. She's promising higher public spending and tax cuts at the same time. Her critics don't really think that will add up quite well.
Yes, the mere sake that she take unpopular policies, going back a traditional Japanese kind of, at a time when reforms are required. I think that in itself speak to an assertive leader, whether she'll get support within parliament itself and other parties, even though they differ. But I doubt if she'll have an overwhelming support to really succeed in those kind of reforms. You need to move with the entire nation, regardless of differences at the political level.
Right. All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time and your insights as always. Professor David Munyai, the Director of the Center for Africa-China Studies at the University of Johannesburg. 6:30 on standby is N. Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the Milk Producers Organisation in the Western Cape says a suspected case of foot-and-mouth disease in a dairy herd in the Mossel Bay area has been brought to their attention. In a statement, the MPO says further information will be communicated as soon as there are any developments or confirmation. A new witness will take to the stand at the Matlanga Commission in Pretoria this morning. The Commission has recently heard testimony from police officials who've been implicated in corrupt activities within law enforcement agencies. And IFP leader Vilinkosini Hlabisa has asked voters in Umzumbe on the KwaZulu-Natal South Coast to set the tone in the upcoming by-election for an IFP victory in the local government elections later this year. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good morning. We started Harry Smith with some good news. The big truck crash from overnight last night, Durban bound at Harry Smith North, that's being cleared and all lanes are open. Hopefully the backlog is clearing or moving a lot better now. Down into Durban, a breakdown into south after Mgena Road. Left shoulder is closed, so just watch for that on your way through towards 4 level. Joburg, it's a brand new week. Let's see how we're shipping up coming in from the south. It's always busy that way, and it is again this morning. M1 North from Eldos up through Devlin, through Deepcliff Interchange. Pretty packed heavily through there. It's likely to get busier over the next hour or so. Pretoria North looking slow as well. A crash on Paul Kruger near Lavender. That's Vanderboom Junction area. Traffic lights out. Sefako Makato all over the N1 highway. So coming out of Montana, that's heavy. And if you're driving Cape Town this morning, it is wet with some overnight rain extending into the morning. And I see the forecast is for rain today. So just please drive carefully. N2 inbound is heavy. There's queuing pressure there from Baden-Powell Drive right through to the airport runway. And a crash on Baden-Powell between Jeff K. Masemola and Walter Sisulu causing delays both ways at the bottom of Khayelitsha. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey Zai, good morning to you. So the they Amakosa Jablile, right? Their happiness is on a continental scale, yeah?
Somewhere in the building there's a Chiefs supporter
As you can
who's
hear in the background.
she's adjusting my volume. It's getting a little loud. Yeah, Tulas, we are all very happy for Kaizer Chiefs and their supporters this morning. Uh, Continental football action. Chiefs top of the CAF Confed Cup Group D. They had a hard-fought 2-1 win over Al Masri at the new Peter Mokaba Stadium. Al Masri, they dropped to third. Chiefs sit top of the group and will steal a quarterfinal place if they avoid defeat against Zamalek in their final group match next weekend. Elsewhere in the competition, Stellenbosch's CAF campaign over after a 3-0 loss to Otoyo Deoyo in Congo. Meanwhile, Mamelodi Sundowns were left frustrated in the CAF Champions League. They were held to a 1-1 draw by Saint Eloi Lupopo in Lubumbashi, and Sundowns just couldn't find a late winner. They remain third in Group C. That sets up a must-win clash against MC Alger at Loftus Versfeld next Saturday to keep their knockout hopes alive. In England now, Erling Haaland's stoppage time penalty earned Manchester City a dramatic 2-1 win at Anfield, their first away victory there with fans since 2003. So that was the win against Liverpool. City cutting Arsenal's lead, by the way, to 6 points, while Liverpool slipped to 6th, 4 points off the Champions League place. Elsewhere, Crystal Palace ended a 12-game winless run, beating rivals Brighton 1-0 away from home. So plenty of action, as always, coming out of the Premier League. And we also saw action with some more of the teams. This time we'll head to cricket. England surviving a major scare in their T20 World Cup opener, edging Nepal by just 4 runs in Mumbai. And we also have the Proteas in action today. The T20 captain Aidan Markram saying the team studied Canada ahead of their opening ICC T20 World Cup match this afternoon. While Canada is not regarded as one of cricket's traditional powers, they remain relatively unknown. Markram explains.
I did a bit of homework yesterday, so got a decent idea now. Obviously, coming to the World Cup, didn't know too much, but important to do that homework and research on their players, strengths, weaknesses, all those sorts of things, and definitely got a much better understanding now.
On to Olympic news. The American skiing legend Lindsey Vonn has undergone surgery in Italy after suffering a broken leg in a heavy crash downhill in Cortina. The 41-year-old clipped a gate early in her run and was airlifted to hospital where she underwent surgery. And that's your sport. We'll be back on the morning brief, top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Hey, Ndaulen, good morning to you and happy Monday. Let's start with news to do with Barrick Gold. Who is Barrick Gold, for starters? And tell me about them planning to spin off their U.S. assets.
So Barrick Gold is actually the world's second largest gold producer. Not a local producer, though. It is a Canadian miner, and it has assets across the globe, from the US to some African jurisdictions, etc., etc. And this time around, it's preparing to spin off its premium US gold assets via an initial public offering, marking a strategic shift as the miner seeks to rebuild investor confidence after years of operational and leadership turmoil. Now, Barrick plans to list a minority stake in the new business by late 2026, while retaining majority control. The move would separate Barrick's lower risk North American operations from assets in more volatile jurisdictions. Now, analysts estimate the spin-off could be valued north of $60 billion, potentially narrowing Barrick's valuation gap with rivals. The reset comes amid falling production, missed upside from record gold prices, and growing pressure from activist investors. Under new CEO Mark Hill, Barrick is reshaping its portfolio, boosting shareholder returns, and simplifying its structure in an effort to restore credibility and long-term growth.
So there's a new Chinese chip maker that has just gone public on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange.
one of many, Tulas. We've been seeing quite a few listings from the tech sector, chip makers, these companies that are associated with this AI boom we are seeing. The latest one, of course, being Montage Technology, which surged nearly 60% in its Hong Kong trading debut this morning, raising $902 million after pricing its initial offering at the top of the range. The Hong Kong tranche was oversubscribed more than 700 times, while the international offering saw nearly 38-fold coverage, signaling strong investor appetite over in that market. Now, Montage's listing comes as China seeks to ease regulations and boost domestic semiconductor production, part of a broader strategy to reduce reliance on foreign tech. The debut also marks another step in the race for Chinese chip makers to tap global capital markets following recent US listings by peers such as Gigadevice Semiconductor and OmniVision Integrated Circuits. Now, Montage's success highlights investor confidence in China's growing chip sector.
All right, recap for us, Ndauling, how we closed on the markets on Friday and the tone that is being set right at the start of the new week.
Yeah, kicking things off in the US, markets staged a recovery on Friday, shaking off concerns about big tech's AI spending plans. The Dow Jones led the gains, closing 2.5% higher. The JSE also closing last week stronger as precious metals stabilized. The oil share up 1.27%. In currency moves, the rand starting the day firmer as risk assets rebound after last week's rout. The local unit sitting at 16 to the dollar, 21.77 to the pound, and 18.92 to the euro. Zooming in on commodities, oil slipping 0.8% this morning on easing tensions between Iran and the US. It's trading just below $67 a barrel. And then lastly, in Asia, stocks trading mostly higher, lifted by Friday's gains on Wall Street. Japan's markets also jumped after Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi won a decisive victory in yesterday's snap election, while South Korea's tech-heavy index climbed on easing worries about AI-driven disruption.
All right, Ndauling, thank you for that. We'll talk to you again just after 7:30 with the second update of the morning.
Africa Update on SAFM.
And for that, we turn to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Raz, good morning and happy Monday to you. Let's start in the DRC. South Africa has had a presence of one way or another in the DRC in as far as boots on the ground are concerned under this UN mission for at least 27 years. That comes to an end now.
Refreshing morning to Thulas and Jumbo Africa. I was telling Melissa of the line, I say we might share notes, but we'll share the tones and the context and the content of this mission to Thulas. There's been an over 60 years mission of the UN at the DRC, but for us, Thulas, we started under MONUC. If you'll remember, I've been always saying the missions in the DRC, they just changed acronyms from MONUC to MONUSCO. But why were we there, first of all, Thulas? It is part of our national interest. It's part of our national defense strategy. And when we were there, it was not all about fighting. And hence, we are part of the UN Peacekeeping Operation Architect, where we are also contributing to the Peacekeeping Fund. So we're not just there. Hence, we find our missions were in Burundi, missions were in Nepal, were in some of the areas in Sudan, South Sudan. But when we are pulling 700 soldiers, it seems now the mission will phase out slowly by the end of 2026. As we know that we have 11,000 troops and the police who are in the DRC, that their mandate was extended by the UN last year to 2026. Hence, we are also following that same withdrawal phase. But it will be important how SADC, the standby force, how we're going to handle it also, because even if we are pulling out, conflicts will always be there, but we need to always understand this peacekeeping architect. What is this peacekeeping mission? What is this peacemaking? And also, what is the role that we have to give to our soldiers when we have to deploy them? I think I've said it mouthfully with Ashraf last week when we were talking about the Battle of Goma, to say that in the future when we are undertaking these missions, let's relook at our national interest and let's look at the support that we are giving to our military personnel.
Yeah, without a doubt, many people will concur with you there, Sipho. Let's move to Namibia, where President Nandi Ndaitwah Netumbo has been paying tribute to one of the founding fathers of the Namibian nation.
Tulas, that was over the weekend, and remember why he paid tribute to former President, the late Nujoma, the third President Hage Geingob. It was because of these are the founding fathers of Namibia under SWAPO, and in the late 60s when SWAPO was formed in 1960, it moved to the late 80s, 90s, fighting for its independence. But for the third president is because 2 years ago, you recall, on the 4th of February, that's where President Hage Geingob passed away. So this was a weekend commemoration, just looking back at the founding fathers of Namibia and the founding liberation fighters of SWAPO, to say what can they harvest in terms of the challenges that they are facing in terms of fostering national unity, dealing with corruption in that country, and many other issues. As you know, that the pillars of sustainable development is also based on political history and economy, because you can commemorate these leaders, but what is it for ordinary Namibians as they are looking at the legacy of this founding father?
In Zimbabwe, another Gambare Hondo Yechimurenga, a war veteran, liberation war veteran, has passed on.
This man, I used to follow him. I used to look at him from when he was rising, and I used to go to Zimbabwe 2015. He was a very interesting character. They call it Blessed Rune Sugeza, who passed away in South Africa. Tulas died at the cardiac hospital, and the family have announced that they are also countering what they call a scam. Tulas, people trying to scam about the contribution. This man was known, his famous name, as you know, Tulas. He will go on Facebook, he will go online, Bombshell. Others are saying this name was because of his controversial critique on President Mnangagwa and the leadership of ZANU-PF, and he will always talk about them as war veterans, about the role that the war veterans have played to us before the new elite that has arrived in the ruling party. So Bombshell Blessed Geza is no more to us, and it seems that the family is managing about his burial. They will announce the burial, the memorial services, but he was one man who has not given Mnangagwa a sleep to us. He will always plan marches, they don't succeed. But he was always trying to raise the plight of the war veterans of that country. That is, in short, and others they say, silence feet, Blessed Bombshell Keza is no more.
And your historical archive, Sipho, takes us to the 9th of February, 1955, on Stakni, on Spolahi.
Exactly. You know, that is Braju who will have said from that song, and then you have Umam Sbongile Khumalo, Middlelands, you know. This is a song that will always remind South African about the brutality of forced removals that happened 71 years ago when black people were moved from Sophia Town to Middlelands in Soweto. They were loaded, more than 2,000 policemen on that day to us with the guns, the nopkiris and rifles, forcing families, and this was one of the brutalities where families were exposed to a cold, rainy weather during that time to us. And we know that they changed the name during that time for Triumph. They call it Sophia Town Triumph. But in 2006, 20 years ago, the then mayor, Amos Masondo, renamed that place to be called on Spolahi, so Tulas, as we have said, Sophia Town, we won't move. And that's where you find that immediately after Sophia Town, Tulas, few months later, there was a trip down charter in Soweto where the ANC met in 1955. So there's a history of the forced removals from District 6, Sophia Town, every area where black people have been moved away from the city to us. It was always to the reserves. And that's a bad history of our 31 years. If we have to go back and say, how do we relook that to us in terms of the relocation, the impact that it has done to many families.
Yeah.
Asante sana Thulas, as was leading the conversation, SAFM observing the state of the nation this week, Thulas.
Sipho, thank you for that. And I strongly recommend a visit and a walk around Sophia Town and just reconnecting with that history and heritage. The Sophia Town museum is there in that area. And just visit it and go and see it. I think it's the house of the late ANC president, A.B. Xuma, and Sipho is gone now. Can't even correct me if I'm getting it wrong. But I visited it, and just that history, that rich history of that area, and of course the painful moment of the forced removals. That's Sipho Mantula there with the Africa update, including his ever popular historical archive.
Every day, Rand Water's underground pipelines run through servitudes across the country, carrying millions of litres of water to our communities. But when people build too close, it's called encroachment, and it's very dangerous. If a pipeline bursts, it can flood homes, destroy property, and in many cases, people lose their lives. That's why Rand Water marks its servitudes with blue and white beacons, a clear warning to stay clear and safe. When we protect Rand Water's servitudes, we protect our communities too. Rand Water, finding new ways.
When choosing a medical aid, pay close attention to the benefits. Like the benefit of skipping phone calls and pharmacy queues with the convenience of the Discovery Health app. The benefit of one app that makes finding the right doctor, booking an appointment, submitting a script, having medicine delivered, and your claim paid simply effortless. Just another benefit that makes Discovery Health Medical Scheme for your health like no other. Speak to your financial advisor or visit discovery.co.za to get a quote. Discovery Health Medical Scheme is a registered medical scheme. The Discovery Health app is brought to members by Discovery Health.
It's time to say yes to Montreux Jazz Festival Franschhoek, happening in Franschhoek from the 27th to the 29th of March 2026. It's 3 days, 2 stages, the Archers and Jazz Village, and a jazz-inspired multi-genre experience, plus a chilled Sunday slowdown to close, featuring the legendary Salif Keita, Herbie Tswayedi, Andile Yenana, Ayanda Sigate, Sisonke Konti, Madala Gunene, and Sibusile Xaba, plus Mandisi Jantjis, Billy Monama, Mos Mohale, Vusi Mahlasela, and more than 20 additional artists still to be announced. This is where Montreux meets Africa. Tickets are on sale now at ticketmaster.co.za or visit mjfsa.com.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Starting central Joburg with a crash on the Mike 1 South this morning near Carr Street. So coming down from Empire Road, that's quite heavy. While we're staying there, it's quite busy getting through Crown going north as well to Empire. Mike 1 from Gold Reef and the M2 pushing back towards Joe Slovo. Killer Road into Soweto Circle. There's a very busy set of conditions there, whether you're coming up the Klipstrow Valley Road or you're on the Soweto Highway from Meadowlands. Very unusual to see that sort of traffic in Soweto this time of morning. Something must go on wrong there. The N12 from Benoni through Boksburg is fairly heavy. Coming out of Pretoria, well, if you're leaving Montana, it's bad news. No traffic lights. Sefako Makato at the N1, and that's heavy. Also staying north in Pretoria, the crash at Vanderboom Junction still there. So Paul Kruger and Lavender Road coming into the junction there are very slow. And a good friend of the show, Eugene, coming up the N14, the Krugersdorp Highway, reporting a crash in at Bruckfontein Interchange, starting to slow things up as well. Durban's N2 coming in off the south coast, reasonably busy this morning up to Prospect, and then it gets jam-packed from the M7 through Westwood Mall territory. Cape Town, bad news if you're out of Tableview, no traffic lights at Dolphin Beach. Whether you're on the West Coast Road Marine Drive or coming off the beachfront at Otto Duplessis, that's heavy. And the other alternative exits from Tableview, Bloberg Road and Malabongwe out towards the N7 are already heavily backed as well. Crash on Baden Powell between Walter Sisulu and Jeff K. Mastamola, causing quite heavy backlogs at Khayelitsha, and a collision on the N7 North at the casino, holding traffic from Epping running slowly towards Goodwood. But everything around Cape Town on a go slow this morning because of the wet weather conditions. We're not complaining, but it's just a reminder to give yourself plenty of time to get through it all. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The villains are charging toward the summit with victory firmly in their sights.
There a minute arriving Ollie Watkins, and he's in there. And it's 2-0 to Aston Villa, and it's Ollie Watkins with a much-needed goal.
Yet the Seagulls are counting on the power of 3 points to run away from the danger zone.
Ayari into Costulas, brilliantly left Gross! A true Albion legend back on the score sheet in blue and white.
This is the Premier League. Catch Aston Villa versus Brighton and Hove Albion this Wednesday, 11 February at 9 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC 3. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Thulasizwe Simelane is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
It's coming up to 7 minutes to 7. The water advocacy group WaterCan says parts of Johannesburg are already living under day zero conditions, not because dams are empty, but because taps have run dry for days and in some areas nearly 3 weeks at a time. In a sharply worded statement, the organization says repeated failures by Johannesburg Water and Rand Water have left residents with unpredictable, unstable access, forcing communities to queue for hours at a time at tankers that often run dry themselves. WaterCan is now calling on national government to formally declare Johannesburg a national disaster area, arguing that the scale and duration of the outages have crossed the threshold from routine maintenance into an emergency. Let's speak to David Mahlobo, Deputy Minister of the Department of Water and Sanitation. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. Kind of hard to argue against the logic of WaterCan, Deputy Minister, that says some areas actually, while we fear day zero, some areas have actually reached that point. When you see images of people queuing with buckets to go collect water for everyday basic services, and it's not just for a day or two, it is for 7 days, it is for 2 weeks. Kind of hard to argue with their logic.
No, a very good morning to Thulasizwe and to your listeners. Remember, President Ramaphosa made a declaration last year in his State of the Nation address around the question of declaring water as a national crisis. That is not is not an issue to say there is no prioritization. The issue that Thulasizwe we must deal with is so that we're all on the same point. Remember, in Gauteng and in Johannesburg in particular, President actually decided, because of the difficulties the metro was experiencing in a number of fronts in governance, including service delivery and finances, he decided to actually make it a presidential working group as a main focus for that particular city. The same way that he declared the Tegwini, so that there is a holistic approach in terms of intervention, bringing in business, private sector, academia, and communities. And in Johannesburg, we're dealing with the same. The story of Gauteng to start to blame other organizations when we should work together is not going to take us anywhere. For an example, the water situation in terms of water balance, in terms of security of water supply in Gauteng, Rand Water every day pumps more than 5.1 billion liters. Out of those 5.1 billion liters a day, Thulasizwe, we lose more than 2.5 billion liters to the ground. In other words, one of our biggest issues is to deal with the issue of water losses and water conservation and demand management. Equally, the usage by citizens in terms of number of liters per person per day, we are using close to about 290 liters instead of 170. Therefore, the relationship between people and water in Gauteng has to change. In the Western Cape, remember, we had nearly day zero in Cape Town. Even after there was rains, good rains, the people of Cape Town came down to use water sparingly, including the use of bylaws. But in the current situation, Thulasizwe, right now, in Johannesburg and Gauteng, all the areas, one of our biggest problems is that when the system like it is vulnerable and erratic, is the ability to store water for a longer period.
Sure.
Most of these areas, Thulasizwe, they don't have enough storage like reservoirs. I was happy when I was with Data helping him last week with the situation in Midrand and elsewhere, that he has already appointed about 4 contractors so that they can do additional reservoirs. You build these new developments. You don't put additional storage. You don't put it at booster pumps.
Yeah.
If the system fails for an hour or two, then
But
it takes
Deputy
about
Minister, with due respect, it's not about finger pointing and blame shifting. All of these issues that you are talking to, there has been someone or an entity, organization with leaders highly paid that have been responsible for that. So when we point out that they should be accountable for that, I don't think it's blame shifting at all. Take the issue of reservoirs that, you're saying there's not enough storage. It's because some of the reservoirs are leaking, and therefore you can only fill them up to a very low point, with the result that you don't get the capacity you need in terms of what you are able to store. Small disruption anywhere upstream, you have problems for days. Someone was responsible for that, and that's not blaming someone. It's to point where accountability lies.
Thulasizwe, you're absolutely correct. Accountability is important. But while we are trying to get people to account, which is very good, but the answer, what do you do? People, they need water like yesterday. They have inconvenience. That's why I was on the ground. One of the biggest things I had to do was to get rainwater, Johannesburg, and all these other metros to ensure that our technical teams, they look at the system in the morning, during the course of the day, and in the afternoon, so that at least they know how to ensure to rebalance the system. If the reservoirs are low in one area, whether the system is pumping well or not, we are able to do load shifting, we are able to apply pressure reducing issues, because we are at the stage where we just have to stop talking, we just have to get to do the work. And I'm happy that that's what these teams are doing every day with the limited support. One of my concerns was that we took a decision last year, March, around the ring fencing of the budget, and some of these municipalities have not done that one. But working with Minister Kotomane, we've introduced an incentive of 58 billion rand for metro trading services, and all of them, they are on board now, putting the turnaround plans. Those are the issues that, in as much as we say account, but let's address the issue to say, when will you get your water?
I'm sorry, Deputy Minister, I'm running out of time, but I want to also challenge you on this. We give you credit a lot for being able to grasp the problem and outline and show an understanding of the problems, and you are one of those people that really get a lot of credit for that. But beyond understanding the contours and depth of the problem, what has changed, for example, since the president declared Johannesburg a part of the presidential working group in relation to the water situation? Because the analysis that you and I are giving is exactly the same as it was about 8 months ago. The amount of water we lose, that is non-revenue water, the leaks at the reservoirs, it's the same problem we were having 8-9 months ago.
We are absolutely correct, but on our side, remember how many projects we did before the G20 summit. President Ramaphosa, we went to open more than 600 million liters treatment works there in rainwater. We opened a number of reservoirs here in this place of Eguruleni. Eguruleni, when it comes to issues of water usage, they've come down. The biggest metros that are struggling for me is Tshwane and Johannesburg. And that's why we need to stay much closer together around actually helping them, those particular two metros, because they are areas.
But my question is more precise, Deputy Minister, and perhaps I padded too much and in the process it was lost. Tell me one or two interventions that we can pinpoint and say, after the president said this is a presidential working group on Johannesburg, in relation to water, these two have been done in the months since that declaration?
One of the things that I know, that they finished the Pristine Towers, which is one of the good things that they've done, because they don't have sufficient storage. Remember, more than 44 reservoirs, most of them are leaking, but one of them, that biggest one, has been done. Now here in March, they'll be launching this one here in Midrand, but they still have to put more Thulasizwe.
All right. Thank you for your time this morning. That's David Mahlobo, Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation, and Musa on standby with the latest news.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
Thanks to us. In our top stories, a suspected foot and mouth disease case in Mossel Bay, and Hlabisa asks voters to set the tone for local elections. Good morning. The Milk Producers Organisation, the MPO, in the Western Cape says a suspected case of foot-and-mouth disease in a dairy herd in the Mossel Bay area has been brought to their attention. In a statement, the MPO says further information will be communicated as soon as there are any developments or confirmation. They've made an appeal to tighten and apply biosecurity measures. This means movement of animals and vehicles, ensuring proper disinfection of equipment in vehicles, and not allowing unauthorized persons access to farms. A new witness will take to the stand at the Matlanga Commission in Pretoria this morning. The Commission has recently heard testimony from police officials who've been implicated in corrupt activities within law enforcement agencies. They include KwaZulu-Natal Hawks Head General Thulasizwe Simelane, Brigadier Rachel Macheng, the SAPS Section Head for Quality Management, as well as Witness F. Sibahle Mota reports.
The Matlanga Commission has in its interim report recommended to President Cyril Ramaphosa that certain officials from the city of Ekurhuleni, including Metro Police officers as well as certain South African police members, must be investigated. These law enforcement officials have been implicated in corrupt activities within police agencies. A task team has since been established to investigate those who have been implicated in corruption.
Yesterday, crime expert and specialist investigator Mike Bolhuis said the Matlanga Commission should look into ways of protecting those who testify or are implicated at the inquiry. This after Saturday night's incident where former police reservist Viandre Pretorius committed suicide at a filling station in Brakpan. Police have confirmed he was a person of interest in the recent murder of Marius van der Merwe, known as Witness D, as well as the 2022 murder of Emmanuel Mbense.
The Matlanga Commission taking its toll on the perpetrators and on those that have been identified and witnesses and everybody involved. It has a huge effect on them all, and the Matlanga Commission should take that in consideration. And they should scrutinize any and everybody involved in whichever way and make sure that they are looked after. In other words, they need to be seriously identified, evaluated, and a risk analysis being done on them.
IFP leader Velinkosini Hlabisa has asked voters in Umzumbe on the KwaZulu-Natal South Coast to set the tone in the upcoming by-election for an IFP victory in the local government elections later this year. Voters in Ward 13 will go to the polls on Wednesday in a hotly contested race between the IFP, ANC, MK Party and NFP. The municipality has been co-governed by the IFP and ANC after winning 17 seats each in 2021. Hlabisa has asked voters to help the IFP bring stability to the local government sphere, as it did in the 2024 general elections that gave rise to a government of national unity and a government of provincial unity in KZN.
People of South Africa have demonstrated that they have trust in the IFP. This has been shown, as I've said, through a number of by-elections and even the government of KwaZulu-Natal. The response of our communities, how Premier Ntuli and his team in a coalition government, the GPU, are leading the province of KwaZulu-Natal. They've brought back confidence. Even the investors, business people are more willing to invest more money.
And finally, the United Nations peacekeeping mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo, MONUSCO, has expressed its deep gratitude to the government and the people of South Africa for their steadfast commitment to UN peacekeeping over several decades. MONUSCO also indicates it had informed the UN Secretariat of President Cyril Ramaphosa's decision to withdraw the country's remaining SANDF contingents and troops. Shawan Bryce Peace reports.
MONUSCO also thanked South African peacekeepers for the dedication demonstrated in support of its peacekeeping mandate in eastern Congo. The mission statement also paid tribute to those peacekeepers who lost their lives under the UN flag in the service of peace in the DRC and honored their service. MONUSCO said it looked forward to continuing to engage South Africa on broader peacekeeping issues, including lessons learned and continued support to efforts aimed at advancing peace and stability.
Recapping the top story, the Milk Producers Organisation in the Western Cape says a suspected case of foot-and-mouth disease in a dairy herd in the Mossel Bay area has been brought to their attention. In a statement, the MPO says further information will be communicated as soon as there are any developments or confirmation. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
This February, don't just celebrate love. You could be celebrating some great car insurance savings too with Outsurance. Like 27-year-old Lynn, who saves a mind-blowing 636 Rand on her 2025 Haval Jolion. Get a quote now, and if Outsurance can't save you money, ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
A very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. Cricket, the Proteas turning their attention to the T20 World Cup opener today as Aidan Markram urges focus and respect for Canada, and Nedbank Cup action drama Richards Bay survive a penalty thriller to book their last 16 spot. All the details just before 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Heavy traffic into Pretoria. The mighty Mopati Highway standing all the way back through Block XX today. If you're leaving Shoshanguve, major queues there down through into Block XX. And then Theo Martin's down to Esky and Patleti. It's heavy. Crash at Vanderboom Junction, holding up traffic quite badly coming out of Pretoria North. And no lights, Whakamakato at the N1. A crash on the Krugersdorp Highway at Brockfontein. If you're on your way to Pretoria, that's heavy. Pushing queues back towards R55, Pretoria West exit. Also a collision on Republic Road before Willie Mandela. So Randburg through to Sandton's heavy, and a collision on the Mike 1 South at Smith Street, backlogging traffic on the run through Braamfontein towards Crown Interchange today. Durban, it's heavy, the N2 between Manzamtoti and Prospect and slow, and then backs up heavily from the M7 all the way through the roadworks at Westwood Mall area. M13 from Hillcrest into Kloof busy as well today, and Cape Town, make sure you've got plenty of time to get through. It is wet, it is raining across Cape Town, it is much needed rain, but it's causing a bit of havoc on the roads. M5 back from Parkwood, Southfield, all the way to Kuberg Interchange. N1 from Kraaifontein through to Kuberg Interchange. There's pressure on the R300 from Delft all the way through up towards Kales River and Brackenfell. It's a busy morning in Cape Town all over. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
11 minutes after 7. Because we were late for the news, I really need to rush through what's coming up in this half hour. So we'll start with a conversation with Tebogo Gas, reflecting on the death of yet another person of interest. There were 12 initially that IPID, the SAPS and the NPA were looking at in relation to the killing in 2022 of Emmanuel Mbenze. Remember, Emmanuel Mbenze is the person that Witness D, the late Witness D, told us was killed by a gang, really, a gang that involved members of the SAPS, Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department, private security, and other players within the law enforcement system, and whose body was then dumped in a dam. So there were 12 initially, 4 are now dead, and we are told 3 by assassination and 1 died by suicide, being Viandre Pretorius over the weekend. So Tebogo Gas will reflect on the implications for IPID's near complete investigation, the NPA decision making around how to go about prosecuting that matter, as well as the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry itself, whether they should be worried about losing witnesses one by one as this plays itself out in what the SAPS now suspects it may be a case of members of a syndicate eliminating one another one at a time as evidence comes to the fore. Then immediately after that, we'll talk to Sia Piniza, Executive Director, Political Economy, Southern Africa. And we'll be talking about South Africa acceding to the agreement, the establishment agreement of Afrexim Bank, with the result that $8 billion will be given, South Africa will be given access to an amount equivalent to $8 billion US, which is designed to strengthen regional supply chains, expand exports, and cushion the country against an increasingly fragmented global trading system. So it's a big deal. And Sia Piniza will tell us why exactly being part of Afrexim Bank is a big deal for South Africa. Your calls on 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes 0614 104 107. Let's get into it. The second hour of the morning brief starts now.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, unfair blacklisting, or an uncontested divorce, Clientele Legal offers professional legal services to all South Africans. Our plans are affordable, and you receive up to 745,000 rand worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our nationwide legal teams are standing by to support you 24 hours a day. Plus, all plans include a 5,000 rand bail benefit. Join today. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Welcome to it. This is season 1 of Playlist happening right here at Maloka, and believe me, it's a party.
Set your reminder every Friday, 9 p.m. Playlist at Maloka is in the building.
Thulasizwe Simelane is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
14 minutes after 7. Are police now dealing with a syndicate that is eliminating its own members one by one to erase the truth about the killing of Emmanuel Mbenze? That is the question investigators are grappling with after the death of another person of interest, Viandre Pretorius, who police say died by suicide just days after surviving a brazen attempt on his life, and as probes into the Mbenze case reach a critical stage. Pretorius was one of 12 people identified by SAPS and IPID in relation to Mbenze's 22 murder, a group that now includes at least 4 who have died, 3 of them in apparent assassinations and 1 by suicide. What are the implications for the Madlanga Commission, IPID, and their nearly complete investigation, and of course the NPA and their decision making about how to go about prosecuting that particular case? Let's pick up that conversation with Tebu Khokhas, Chairperson of Public Interest South Africa. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. Just your overall broad overview and impressions about the death of yet another person linked to this murder, on its own already delayed in terms of it being solved and people being held to account for it. But as we sit now, according to the police, we had 12 people of interest, now 4 are dead.
Yeah, thanks, Thulasizwe. This is it's indicative of a very serious problem that we have in society per se, but more specifically in the responses from the criminal justice system, the police themselves. You said it in your intro, Emmanuel Mbenze was killed in April 15, 2022, which makes it will be 4 years in April this year since he was killed. Ordinarily, it ought to have been a straight policing investigation where they would have identified who the suspects were and then made sure that they faced justice. But that didn't happen until such time it was escalated into an IPID investigation, which also of its own seemed to have taken a lot long which is now we see some movement. But in that interim, obviously, once criminals believe that they start mistrust coming in, especially when you have the instance such as witness B, Marius van der Merwe spilling the beans at the Madlanga Commission, you would find that people start asking, or criminals themselves within the networks, can I still trust X, Y, and Z, or should I make sure that they're no longer able to testify against me because they'll implicate me? Or those who've been implicated themselves, they may feel that I'm vulnerable. Maybe I should just, as apparently is the case with Mr. Pretorius, take their own life to make sure that they don't have to stand trial and account. But that on its own shows the system is not working as it should be. I'm talking about the witness program itself, because they should be able to identify vulnerable individuals or individuals likely to cause problems for the matters as they make their way through the court system, and make sure that they offer them and put them in witness protection. But that on its own is not for the taking, because in some instances, even if you offer people, as we believe it was the case with Marius van der Merwe, they can decline because there are weaknesses within the witness protection system itself. In fact, we know that the trust factor is an issue with the police, where witnesses themselves feel that they don't trust police very much. I mean, a case in point is that of Brian Mohosi, who doesn't want police protection because he doesn't trust members of SAPS. So that tells you that we've got a trust deficit that the SAPS has to work on before people can actually enroll or willingly enroll themselves into the witness protection program. Because you cannot force people to go into witness protection itself. I'm not sure if by law you can actually tie people out of their families and put them in witness protection. I don't think it can be done. So it is a very difficult problem. But also I must highlight this fact, the idiosyncrasies that are prevalent in government. Here I'm talking about the fact that you've got a senior ranking military official in the name of Brigadier General Cheng, who is charged with the murder of a Hawks investigator, Lieutenant Colonel Matipa, who has just been promoted. And this man is on bail for a serious case of murder, who's just been promoted to a general commanding officer of the Special Task Force in the SANDF. You ask yourself, if police were implicated in crime, as it would be the case in the Benzer case, why are they still allowed to continue to be at work when in fact there could actually be more interference and make it difficult?
So given that in this particular case, the people of interest and suspects are actually people in law enforcement, one way or another, be it Metro Police, SAPS, private security, and then the manner in which those who are potential witnesses that could turn state witness, etc., are being killed off one by one, well, the latest being the exception in that he died by suicide, we are told. What does it say about what we're dealing with in terms of the types of crimes, the resemblance of mafioso kind of activity, and are we responding at that level as a country and as a government?
These are high stakes environment in terms of crime, because those who are implicated or those who are likely to be implicated, they know that they've got a lot to they stand to lose, and it shows the fact that you, as you mentioned, that even it implicates police, reservists, and others within across the law enforcement problem. It is a problem that requires dedicated intervention by a government to look into this specific problem, to stymie it, because failure to put an end to this type of killings will send chills to anybody who wants to come and testify or who wants to become a witness or a whistleblower. And until people can feel comfortable that their safety they will be protected if they decide to testify, very few people will avail themselves. I'll give you a case as the one in El Dorado a few months ago last year, where a witness was killed just standing outside a court. You ask yourself, who will be able, if you're a breadwinner, would you be encouraged to raise your hand and say, I've seen some wrongdoing and I want to speak out against it, knowing full well that the state will never protect you?
All right. Sobering realities of our time. Thank you for that. Debo Khogas is Chairperson of Public Interest South Africa.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
All right, from the utterly distressing to, I don't know, something slightly more encouraging. South Africa is betting on the African continent as it signs on to one of the continent's most powerful financial engines, formally acceding to the African Export-Import Bank in a move aimed at unlocking growth, trade and industrial muscle closer to home. The agreement gives Africa's most industrialized economy access to $8 billion Afrexim Bank country program designed to strengthen regional supply chains, expand exports, and cushion South Africa against an increasingly fragmented global trading system. President Cyril Ramaphosa, in reacting to that, has said joining the bank, Afrexim Bank, marks a major milestone in the push for continental economic integration and will allow South Africa to translate partnership into practical instruments that expand productive capacity and diversify exports. Big English, but what does it all mean? Let's speak to Sia Biniza, Executive Director, Political Economy, Southern Africa. Good morning to you, Sia, and thank you for your time. It's been a while, my friend. Let's start with let's start with the significance of it all. Afrexim Bank, it's one of those institutions that we don't talk about enough. Why is it important for South Africa to be joining Afrexim Bank?
Sure. Thanks, and good morning to the listeners, Thulasizwe. So, look, the critical role that Afrexim plays in Africa is enabling intra-Africa trade. Now, this is critically important because in a world of geopolitical uncertainty where our historical and traditional trade partners relations may not be as good or may be shaky, and there might also be competition for access to some of the critical minerals that are deposited all over the continent. What is more important in driving resilience for the African market and African economies is intra-Africa trade. And the role of Afrexim Bank is in enabling that through providing of finance, which enables the trade, but also providing insurance and really de-risking a lot of the trade. What they typically do are a range of financial products, all the way starting from trade finance, where they enable companies by giving them working capital to support their exports into the rest of the continent and other markets. But also they provide insurance instruments and other financial products such as letters of credit, guarantees, and others, which basically de-risk some of the risk, enabling those companies on the continent to able to access banking finance in their respective countries. And so the critical role and the importance of this agreement is that it's going to be a critical milestone and a step towards realizing some of the big ambitions that South Africa and the continent has in the Africa Free Continental Trade Agreement, the AFCFTA.
It's in the name, isn't it, Sia? Afrexim, Africa Export-Import Bank. But talk to me about your understanding of what this 8 billion rand Afrexim Bank country program entails. As I understand the aspects you just explained about enabling trade within the African continent, but I saw that our excitement as South Africa has to do more with how it will enable and re-energize the manufacturing sector.
Indeed. So I think firstly one must understand the context during South Africa being the 54th member to accede of the African governments or African countries is the literal last piece to the puzzle that is Afrexim trying to put together of the African continent. South Africa is also the biggest intra-Africa trader. And in the latest figure from 2024, intra-Africa trade for South Africa grew to $42 billion. And of that, $30 billion goes towards our exports, which South Africa exports a lot of diversified manufactured goods. And that's really critical for South Africa because that creates jobs, whilst also importing around $10 billion worth of raw materials and inputs that are beneficiated or, for lack of a better word, used as inputs for the manufacturing sector in the country and later exported. And so the importance of South Africa joining and the excitement, I think, comes from firstly being able to access this $8 billion in funding. And to be clear, pipeline of around $6 billion of investments and opportunities that Afrexim Bank was approaching when it comes to South Africa. However, what this ascension does is that it critically de-risks some of this lending as well, because now that South Africa is acceded to Afrexim Bank, within the context of South African lending, Afrexim Bank has got what is called preferential creditor status, which means that when other lenders are not being able to be paid by South Africa, they will still remain being paid. Now, this has created some friction recently, as you may have seen in the relationship between Afrexim and credit rating agencies being tested and actually it dissolving its ties or relationship with the S&P over precisely this issue. On the other part, I think the bigger excitement from a political perspective is the $3 billion promised support for the Black Economic Empowerment programs. Now, these are programs that, in the context of South Africa's divided history, has been contentious, because there are some who feel that BE is a drain on economic activity and the potential, whilst others have seen that or see BE as an obstacle to trading with traditional trading partners in the West, the US and European trading partners. I think this is the combination of these two things, that the expansion of potential investments coming from Afrexim Bank and this potential for $3 billion that will be earmarked for supporting Black economic empowerment and supporting Black industrialists. From a political standpoint, this is also critical because the challenge with South Africa's foreign policy is that it's not able to garner or actually push our private sector. What you have in the South African case is our foreign policy kind of leads business. In the current era, most of the superpowers are actually in support of their business, and that business leads that foreign policy, and then the governments come and support that business and economic activity. And without having a lockstep between capital, business, as well as the foreign policy, all our ambitions on the Africa Continental Trade Agreement are unlikely to be realized. And you've seen this in that the foreign direct investments from South Africa to the rest of the continent have gone down. And so by establishing this new relationship, the hopes, I think, from a political and economic perspective is to resuscitate those economic and trade and investment ties and locking in South Africa to a very promising and I think a market that will be the be all and end all in the years to come.
All right, Sia, I've got to thank you. Thank you for letting us tap into your magisterial understanding of these issues. As always, Sia Biniza, Executive Director of Political Economy Southern Africa. 7:30, and Musa on standby with the latest news.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, evidence leaders at the Nkabinde inquiry in Pretoria will today apply for a postponement until next week Tuesday due to the absence of additional witnesses. This follows the conclusion of testimony by former KwaZulu-Natal Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Moiponi Noko, on Friday. The Milk Producers Organisation, MPO, in the Western Cape says a suspected case of foot-and-mouth disease in a dairy herd in the Mossel Bay area has been brought to their attention. In a statement, the MPO says further information will be communicated as soon as there are any developments or confirmation. And world leaders are congratulating Japan's Prime Minister on her decisive election victory. Exit polls indicate how governing coalition won 2/3 of the seats in the lower house of Parliament. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just having a look at Deepcliff Interchange, which featured predominantly in our traffic reports last week, coming in from Eldorado Park in Devlin. Remarkably, it's not too bad this morning. It's nowhere near as busy as it was every single day last week, so you're getting a little bit of a gap there. But if you go north of Deepcliff, then it gets terrible. Up past Soweto towards the Albertina Sisulu Road, Maresburg exit. That section of the M1 North really is under some pressure. Breakdown M1 South at William Mandela, so delays from Ravonia. Crash coming out of Randburg on Republic Road at William Mandela. So that's quite heavy as well on your way out towards Sandton. A lot of traffic on the N12 between Pitfontein and Boksburg via Benoni. That N12 towards Joburg, very heavy. Eugene reported a crash earlier on the N14 at Brockfontein interchange. That is still causing delays on that Krugersdorp Highway from Pretoria West exit up in towards the N1 highway. The N4, Emelathleni Highway to Pretoria, trying to get to the N1 or Hatfield. There's a big backlog there as well today. And Durhanport Plaza queuing up, which doesn't normally happen. Durhanport Plaza on the N4 eastbound, very slow. Coming off Durban South Coast all the way up to the airport, traffic with you at three major locations this morning. Tony Prospect and M7 out to Umgeta Road, then through Kwamashu Highway towards the Gateway exit 3. Really big queues of traffic on that run through. And Cape Town, far too much for me to detail every single delay. I'll just say it is heavy. Just a couple of examples. The M3 inbounds at Takai. The M5 inbound is Grassy Park. The R300 North stacks from Delft. There's also no traffic in the weather on the West Coast Road Marine Drive option at Dolphin Beach Hotel. So all sorts of problems getting out of Table View as well. Give yourself plenty of time to get through Cape Town. It's wet and it's heavy. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey Zai, good morning to you. So let's talk T20 World Cup. You're saying that Aiden Markram is a bit wary of little-known Canada. Not enough, an enigma of sorts, are they?
An enigma of sorts, yes, Thulas, rightly so. But you know what? These World Cups have a habit of humbling us a little bit, especially favorites. So Canada may be new, but I think the Proteas don't want to take any shortcuts or get a free pass at a World Cup. So plenty of Aiden Markram saying he's the T20 captain. We need respect. We need discipline. That's going to be key as South Africa begin their World Cup campaign this afternoon.
Yeah, you don't want to jinx anything. At the start of this comp already, we've seen some close games, and it doesn't look like there's going to be any straightforward, easy games. But I have faith in our team that if we put a really good game of cricket together, then we give ourselves a good chance at a good result. And that's sort of something you want to do in a competition like this. You want to start off really well and run with that moving forward. So that's where a lot of the focus has been for us as a group, and hopefully we can put a really good game of cricket together.
Soccer now. Kaizer Chiefs co-coach Khalil Ben Yusuf has raised concerns over fixture congestion, warning that the growing injury toll is becoming unsustainable. Speaking after Amakosi's 2-1 CAF Confed Cup win over Al Masri in Polokwane, a result that sent Chiefs top of their group, Ben Yusuf suggested the domestic schedule has offered little breathing room.
It's not excuse, but it's reality. If you want to improve, you want to help, you have to help your team also. Because we are representing Kaizer Chiefs, but also we are representing South Africa. And what I'm asking to do, we did it last season. We did the same thing. I mean, some teams in May, they played last 5 or 6 games. This season we played 15 games. Another team, I don't want to say the name, they have 13 games. And they don't play nothing. If we represent Kaizer Chiefs, tell us that you represent Kaizer Chiefs. But if you represent South Africa, tell us that you represent South Africa. Because in all the country, I was working in different country. When you play CAF game, it's allowed for you to change the fixture.
That's not true because the coach just said now, complained exactly about what you just complained.
See how many games they played. They have 3 games down. Check how many games they played and you will see.
That's the Kaizer Chiefs co-coach Khalil Ben Yusuf hinting that rivals Orlando Pirates may have benefited from more favourable planning. Let's go to TS Galaxy now. They booked their place in the Nedbank Cup round of 16 with a hard-fought 1-0 extra-time win over Maruma Gallants at Solomon Mahlangu Stadium. Another match, Golden Arrows advanced in the Nedbank Cup. 3-0 was their win over Orbit College at King Zwelithini Stadium. Richards Bay FC edging Siwelele 4-3 on penalties, also advancing from their Nedbank Cup round of 32 clash. It all happened at the Dr. Molimela Stadium. Elsewhere, Atletico Madrid slipped to a 1-0 home defeat against Real Betis in La Liga just days after thrashing the same opponents in the Copa del Rey. And finally, swimming. Organizers of the Midmar Mile confirming with deep sadness that a 63-year-old female participant passed away after suffering cardiac arrest during the event. Now, rescue teams and fellow swimmers responded immediately when she showed signs of distress in the water, initiating CPR before handing her over to ER24 medics. Now, event organizers stressing that participant safety remains the forefront priority, with emergency protocols active instantly. They extended heartfelt condolences to the swimmer's family and loved ones, requesting privacy during this difficult time. That's your sport on the morning brief. We'll bring it back top of the hour. I'm Sai Khan.
The business update on SAFM.
And for that, we turn to Ndawuleng Liche. I nearly said advocate Ndawuleng Liche. It's a Monday.
I know it's a Monday.
It's a Monday morning. I'm sorry. Ndawuleng, NERSA made one huge blunder, multi-billion rand blunder, and we are now all paying for it.
You're absolutely right, Thulas. Now, the country's electricity pricing outlook has shifted after the energy regulator was forced to revisit its calculations, clearing the way for higher power, or rather steeper power price increases than initially planned. NERSA will now allow Eskom to raise tariffs by 8.6% in April and 8.8% next April, up from the earlier approvals of 5.3% and 6.19%. The revision follows a court ruling that found errors in the regulator's original methodology, prompting a fresh determination after public submissions. While the increases are intended to support Eskom's financial stability, they of course land as consumers remain under strain. Eskom has returned to profitability for the first time in about 8 years, aided by a government bailout and improved coal plant performance. Yet, higher tariffs remain central to its recovery and weighing on consumers and businesses across the country.
And the issue around De Beers, quite interesting developments about who will pick up bits and pieces of De Beers. Angola is eyeing something in the region of 20 to 30%.
Yeah, so it's repositioning its bid for De Beers. Thulas. Initially, Angola wanted a majority stake, so we're seeing a bit of a backtrack there. Now it's signaling that it would be comfortable with a 20 to 30% stake in the diamond giant as African producer states explore a coordinated approach to ownership. Now, the shift comes after Angola last year expressed interest in the business, which Anglo American put up for sale amid weak diamond prices and growing competition from lab-grown stones. Angolan officials say holding a minority stake would reduce exposure to the volatility of the commodity while still securing long-term strategic value. Now, talks are underway with Botswana, Namibia, and SA to align interest, though no agreement has been reached. Botswana, of course, already owns 15% of De Beers and has indicated ambitions to increase that holding, raising the prospect of competing bids. Angola says any stake would be held through state diamond entities in Ndiama and Sodiam.
All right, lastly, Ndawuleng, how are the markets looking at this hour?
Starting in Asia, it's green across the board, with Japan's Nikkei up 4% after Prime Minister Takaichi won a snap election over the weekend. A similar mood in the state, with futures in positive territory. Traders are awaiting a jobs and inflation reports, those due later this week. And then reflecting on how local assets closed last week, the JSE closing the week strong as precious metals tracked higher. The All Share jumped 1.27% in Friday's close. The Rand starting the day firmer, trading at 16 to the dollar, 21.72 to the pound, and 18.93 to the euro. In commodities, oil remains range-bound, trading just below $67 a barrel.
All right, Ndawuleng, thank you for that. We'll talk to you in the third hour of the show, just after 8:30, in which update, of course, Ndawuleng will also give you a sense of the kind of trading day that you can expect on this Monday.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
A space where generations come together in conversation that seek to spark curiosity, inspire innovation, and feed the curious mind. For arts, culture, and robust conversations, join me every weekday between 1 and 3 p.m. on The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga as we explore the stories, lessons, and conversations that guide us back to self.
Wherever you are in the world, SAFM 104 to 107 is accessible. We're also streaming live on Facebook, X, and YouTube at SAFM Radio. We acknowledge and appreciate everyone tuning in and watching our streams. Stay with SAFM 104 to 107 as we bring you Commission Live, breaking stories, and thought-provoking lectures. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
It's time to say yes to Montreux Jazz Festival Franschhoek, happening in Franschhoek from the 27th to the 29th of March 2026. It's 3 days, 2 stages, the Arches and Jazz Village, and a jazz-inspired multi-genre experience, plus a chilled Sunday slowdown to close, featuring the legendary Salif Keita, Hebi Tswaedi, Andile Yenana, Ayanda Sigate, Sisonke Konti, Madala Gunene, and Sibusile Klaba, plus Mandisi Janchis, Billy Munama, Mos Mohale, Vus Mahlasela, and more than 20 additional artists still to be announced. This is where Montreux meets Africa. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster or visit mjfsa.com.
This is Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief.
17 minutes to 8. So on this story, I have to give credit to the initial reporting of Sunday Times. Soldiers guarding the country's borders say they are surviving on little more than pap, eggs and pilchards, sometimes just 2 meals a day. And by their comparison, prisoners receive 3 balanced meals daily. Despite these conditions, the SANDF insists the problems are isolated and that adequate funding exists, blaming supplier delays. The South African Defence Union, SANDU, however, describes the crisis as part of a systemic collapse in logistical and sustainment capacity, worsened by chronic underfunding and a dysfunctional tender system. Of course, the situation has sparked outrage as it contrasts sharply with plans to spend something in the region of 370 million rand on Armed Forces Day, which is coming up in the next few days. And with the fact that as I said earlier on, by the comparison of these soldiers, prisoners receive better nutrition than they do. Let's speak to Advocate Piki Grief, who's the National Secretary of the South African National Defence Union. Piki, good morning and thank you for your time. Just the facts now, Piki. What is the situation here? We are told on the one side that, the problems are isolated and that it all has to do with supplier delays. But what is the actual situation as experienced by SANDU members, by SANDF members?
Good morning. Yes, I think, multiple provinces and at multiple deployment points within provinces have reported exactly the same kinds of symptoms, symptomatic problems. So to call that isolated is, I think, rather intellectually dishonest. The fact of the matter is it's experienced all over the deployment areas. And if we're talking about, for instance, in KwaZulu-Natal, that 4 platoons of about 30 soldiers each, that's 120 soldiers, plus their command structure are experiencing this problem, then I think you can hardly call it isolated.
What do we understand to be behind it all, Piki? Is it a disruption in supply chains and management of suppliers, or is it something deeper than that?
It's absolutely a disruption in the supply chain, but the disruption in the supply chain has nothing to do with incompetence or inadequacy. It has everything to do with financial resources. The companies that provide, for instance, the rations and even the fresh food products and so on, aren't always necessarily local companies in a particular province. So we have picked up from the information on the ground that some of these companies are hesitant to actually execute their contracts when they find out that it's long distance transport that's involved, because that, of course, eats into their profit margins. That in itself shouldn't be the soldiers' problem. That is something the department must sort out very, very quickly. And then secondly, a defence force runs on fuel. And so if one experiences shortages in fuel or inadequate finances to supplement one's fuel supplies, then that becomes a huge problem.
What are the implications for operations such as Operation Corona, which has to do with the guarding of our borderlines?
Well, it implicates the operation, or impacts the operation on multiple levels. Firstly, you have the morale of the soldiers. You have to look after your soldiers. We all know the well-known saying that the army marches on its stomach. If your soldiers aren't properly fed and equipped, then obviously their mission isn't always going to be successful. The morale is down. When morale goes down, then discipline goes down. That's the one aspect. The other aspect is if the soldiers can't complete their mission, that makes all of us more unsafe. And really the point of it all being that one might as well then suspend the entire operation if you can't maintain your troops and your equipment in the deployment area. This is very serious, and I think all South Africans should be very worried and upset about the situation.
And contrast that with the planned expenditure around Armed Forces Day. What is your best understanding of what the actual figures are and what is being spent on what as far as Armed Forces Day is concerned?
Look, Armed Forces Day is always going to cost a heap of money. It is, however, one of the tasks that the Defence Force carries out on an annual basis. The point is just that, one can understand that there's pessimism about this given the situation, but it is also a Defence Force function. So what we are basically just saying is the one shouldn't be to the exclusion of the other. We shouldn't even be having such a conversation. If the funding of the Defence Force was adequate and applied adequately, then we could do both, and we should, in theory, be able to do both at the same time. It shouldn't be an either-or.
But by your estimation, 370 million rand on Armed Forces Day being the estimate, and until the department or the SANDF corrects that, that's what we are going with. Is that par for the cause?
I beg your pardon, I didn't get the last part of your question.
Is it par for the cause? You're talking about the importance of...
We're not able to determine whether that amount which has been branded about in the media is correct, but we have no reason to doubt it. As you also say, the Defence Force hasn't refuted that. But we must also remember that this is not just a single day expenses. The Armed Forces Day already started on Monday, and it is for a duration of about 2 weeks until the 22nd of February, which culminates in the parade. And also remember, the person involved in that calculation probably is also the salaries of the members, their monthly salaries that they would have earned anyway. And we must also see the value of Armed Forces Day. It's an opportunity for the Defence Force to practice its skills in mass logistical movement. Ironically enough, while the soldiers who are on deployment are at the receiving end of bad logistics. But yeah, there is some value in the day, and we should be careful not to, just undervalue.
I get you. So lastly then, talk to me about pay disparities, because that's the other aspect of the story that was reported in Sunday Times that talks to the pay disparities also adding to the problems. When we say pay disparities, what are we talking about?
Our members reported, for instance, a couple of members from KZN, deployed there in KZN, reported to us that apparently their colleagues who are on guard duty in Luhata military base in the Northern Cape are receiving about 18,000 rand a month in allowances, while those on deployment in KZN are getting 10,000. We're not directly clear on whether that is accurate or how those were calculated. And so we're encouraging, of course, now the perception is on the ground that there's a disparity in pay, and this causes huge dissatisfaction amongst the rank and file. So we're encouraging the members who are experiencing that problem to please contact us. Let us have a look at their pay sheets and assist them. If there is something wrong, we have to fix it. It's probably a policy deviation, might be a calculation error, but we certainly as a union, we can fix it for them if there's a problem.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. That's Biki Khrief, who is National Secretary of the South African National Defence Union.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Bit slow now on the M1 highway around Pretoria. This is from Montana as you on-ramp after the faulty traffic lights on Sifaka Makato onto the main carriageway. Down as far as the N4, Hatfield and Emma-Lethleani split. Also the N4, Emma-Lethleani highway in towards the N1. You might be trying to get to the N1 or you might be trying to get through to Hatfield. That's all heavy as well. The N14, earlier crash at Brockfontein interchange causing a big delay. Pretoria bound on the Krugersdorp highway from sort of the R55 exit. All gets a bit heavy. Breakdown M1 south before William Mandela, still heavy from Rivonia. The crash on Republic Road at William Mandela, holding up traffic coming out of Randburg on the way to Sandton this morning. The N12 leaving Pitfontein as you come into Benoni and Boksburg. Long queues of traffic this morning. N12 Joburg bound really is under some pressure. A lot of traffic around Durban as well from Monday morning, particularly on the N2. It's queuing heavily from the M7 up through Westwood Mall and then from Queen Nundy Drive all the way through to the Gateway exit. There's a really big slowdown there. If you're on your way from the south up to the airport, make sure you've got plenty of time to get through. M4 Southern Freeway under a bit of pressure into central Durban from Kongela and Umbilo sides. And Cape Town, it is heavy all over this morning. The highways are a lot worse. Give you a couple of examples of those. The M3 into town backs all the way to Kai. M5 is around Grassy Park area. R300 is from the N2 all the way up to the N1. And all the approaches getting to Stellenbosch are heavy, particularly the R44 arriving from Somerset West. That's a long queue this morning into central Stellenbosch. And the rain not only affecting sort of Cape Town motorists, but outbound or out further, Clarence Drive had some flooding and some mudslides with some rocks coming off the mountain onto Clarence Drive between Gordons Bay and Royale. A lot of rain in Cape Town, but more rain in the inland areas. Please drive carefully. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. Easy to apply, no medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, let's go straight to your WhatsApp voice notes. A lot of people wanting to respond, of course, to the death by suicide of yet another person of interest in the killing of Emmanuel Mbenze, as well as, the decisions that the NPA and IPID and the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry have to make about that particular phenomenon which has police concerned. And also the comments of the MEC of Health in Gauteng, Nomantungo Moralehoko, about some patients preferring to sleep on the floor, not necessarily that then shows that, hospitals are overcrowded. That is really me summing up what she's quoted as having said. It's gotten a lot of reaction. Let's take a listen to some of those voice notes.
Hi Makocha kunjani mfowethu uyabona, I don't understand why we as South African, in particular police and NPA, like this thing of publicizing things on the news before they act. In America, you hear the FBI have already done the arrest, or they publicize it when they're doing the takedown. Here, we tell you, we point it out, it's coming. And do you think criminals are going to sit idle? No wonder we're losing people like this.
Good morning to us and the SAFM listeners. If I believed in African magic, I would say Emmanuel Mbenze is fighting his own battles from the grave. Because everyone that is implicated in his death is slowly going one by one. But that is just my take. This is the highway, man.
Morning to Thulasizwe. This is TK here from Pumalang. You know, this case here, Emmanuel, it's amazing that these people are dying one by one and they are killing each other and they are known and nothing is being done about it. All we are told is that it's the NPA. They are busy finalizing. Why not lock up all these suspects so that the killing can stop, so that we get to the bottom of this?
Yeah.
Because everyone is known. I mean, it's really baffling me.
Yeah. And I hear you completely. One of my concerns is IPID, the Independent Police Investigative Directorate, has gone to ground. Imagine an entire law enforcement institution to ground. When last did you hear from IPID? Do you know who the director is at IPID, by the way? Does anyone know? They don't talk. And they've got a bit to account for because this happened in 2022 and they've been investigating. And I remember this came up during the testimony of Witness D to say, and in fact other testimonies that were questioning, but this happened in 2022. How far is the investigation? Guess what? Now that the spotlight is on this issue in the Madlanga Commission, it's all moving. It's all moving quite fast. And as a result, we're told that they've really done their investigation, handed over to the NPA for assessment, etc. That could have happened in 2024, latest. 2024. What's taken so long? Especially in a situation where some of the witnesses have said, I deposed a statement with IPID. That was Witness D. That's what he said before he died. He had deposed a statement with IPID and never heard from them and just didn't know where the case was. And now things are moving, but people are dying at the same time that are of relevance to that investigation. Let me listen to this one about the state of hospitals and perhaps what MEC Nkomorale Huko has had to say.
Good morning. The MEC for Health in Gauteng must tell the truth and shame the devil. Just yesterday, I went to Tembisa Hospital. I could not believe what I saw there. I have never seen a hospital ward that full. It was so full. Bafana Kumalo.
Thank you, Bafana. Thank you. Much appreciated. Yeah, I would love to hear your own experiences because especially if you work in healthcare, you might be able to help us understand. Perhaps there's something we are missing in what she's saying because she says there are patients who prefer to sleep on the floor and then the media, because it's always the media, isn't it? The media. So you guys then present that as the hospital is full and overflowing and people are sleeping on the floor. Meanwhile, some of the patients actually prefer that. I'd love to hear from someone with experience, direct experience, whether this is borne out by any reality, lived reality in a hospital environment. Let me take this one very quickly about the state of water.
Thulasizwe, the biggest disappointment is that leaders who are supposed to take action, you find that they are complaining with the masses. It just cannot be that a city center or a big city like Johannesburg, it doesn't have water. Johannes from Centurion.
Johannes, I agree with you completely, 100%. In fact, the skill of capturing what the problem is one that has been finessed quite extensively within our government echelons. And you find yourself nodding as you speak to these guys. And then they tell you what the solution is. 8 months down the line, Dololo implementation. Anyway, let me go to Ann Musa on standby with the latest news.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
Thanks to us. In our top stories, evidence leaders to apply for Nkabinde inquiry postponement and a weather warning issued for parts of the Western Cape. Good morning. Evidence leaders at the Nkabinde inquiry in Pretoria will today apply for a postponement until next week Tuesday due to the absence of additional witnesses. This follows the conclusion of testimony by former KwaZulu-Natal Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Moiponi Noko, on Friday. The inquiry is investigating the fitness of South Gauteng Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Andrew Chauke, to hold office. Meanwhile, the first witness, former National Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Shamila Batoy, has been granted permission to appoint legal counsel after walking out mid-cross-examination in December last year. Justice Besin Kabinde has instructed both legal teams to submit their applications and responding affidavits over the weekend.
The evidence leading team will file an application for a postponement, as they indicate, by Saturday, the 7th of February 2026. This application will be argued on Monday, the 9th, at 9 o'clock.
The Milk Producers Organisation, MPO, in the Western Cape says a suspected case of foot-and-mouth disease in a dairy herd in the Mossel Bay area has been brought to their attention. In a statement, the MPO says further information will be communicated as soon as there are any developments or confirmation. They've made an appeal to tighten and apply security measures. This means restricting movement of animals and vehicles, ensuring proper disinfection of equipment in vehicles, and not allowing unauthorized persons access to the farms. The South African Weather Service has issued a yellow level 4 warning of severe thunderstorms in parts of the Western Cape today. Showers and thunderstorms are expected to develop over the Overberg and Southern Cape winelands. The Weather Service says this may lead to localized flooding and large amounts of small hail. It says the heavy rain may cause major travel disruptions. Western Cape Premier Alan Winde has welcomed a declaration by national government of the drought in the province as a national disaster. He says this enables authorities to be preventative, to move money around and to use the disaster as a risk management tool. He says dam levels are around the 50% mark. Winde says preparations must be made for a longer summer season and drier years.
So that means that it enables us to manage it differently, put funding towards where the issues are the worst. And of course, we are managing it between national government, provincial government and local government, and then with a specific focus on those local governments that are the most at risk. So for example, Minister Bradell and his whole team met with the full council in Knysna on Friday to make sure that, when we agree that certain things must happen, they must happen.
And finally, world leaders are congratulating Japan's Prime Minister Sanai Taikaichi on her decisive election victory. Exit polls revealed a party won the most votes in the snap election that was scheduled just 3 months after she assumed office. US President Donald Trump said Taikaichi's decision to call the snap vote was bold and wise. The BBC's Shaima Khalil reports.
Sanai Takaichi wanted a public mandate and now she has one. What she does with it is the bigger question. At home, she faces stagnant wages, rising prices and a sluggish economy. Abroad, she's already angered Tokyo's biggest trading partner, Beijing, after suggesting late last year that Japan could respond militarily if China attacked Taiwan. But a long-term economic fallout with Beijing could have severe consequences here.
Recapping the top story, evidence leaders at the Nkabinde inquiry in Pretoria will today apply for a postponement until next week Tuesday due to the absence of additional witnesses. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
With Outsurance, saving on your car insurance is sweeter than heart-shaped chocolates. 30-year-old Dineo saves an unbelievable 1,094 Rand on her 2025 Kia Sonet. Get a quote now, and if OUTsurance can't save you money, ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Why pay more when you could be saving? SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. OUTsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
Very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. Rugby, the Blitzboks are back on top in Perth. South Africa clinching the Sevens title after edging Fiji in the final. And in cricket, Proteas skipper Aidan Markram saying there'll be no sleepwalking into their T20 World Cup opener today. All the details just before 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Heavy coming out of Joburg's Randburg area. Ferndale on your way to Sandton. A crash earlier on Republic at Winnie Mandela. And that traffic is very, very heavy. I don't know if you want to go down Jan Smuts as an alternative, but it might get you through to Sandton a lot quicker than the Republic Road. Also Winnie Mandela from Bryanston heading down into that Hurlingham area of Sandton. Very slow as well. N1 North passing Soweto jammed heavily towards the Maresburg exit. Crash on the N3 North at Van Buren. Heavy out of Germiston and Alberton. And the N12 from Pitfontein through Benoni into Boxburg down as far as Rondebolt Road stays heavy as well. Durban, a lot of traffic running up the N2 this morning from the M7 through to Umgena Road, and then really from sort of Queen Nundy Drive all the way through to Kwamashu and up towards Gateway. There's a lot of traffic on that section of the N2 going north. The M4 between Umhlanga and Blue Lagoon jammed both ways on the Ruth First Highway, and the M4 inbound from Umbilo up into central Durban and the Esplanade. That's very slow as well. Cape Town, just a warning, there is traffic absolutely everywhere. Rain this morning, quite heavy at times. A lot of surface water, a lot of spray, everything going slow. N1 from Kraaifontein right through to the city, the M3 from Takai, R300 from the N2 at Delft all the way up to the M1 highway. It is just a really heavy morning. If you're trying to get into Stellenbosch, for example, all your major approaches there are backed even worse than normal. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
8 minutes after 8, welcome to it, the third hour of the Morning Brief on this Monday. It is absolutely great to be in your company. Let me do as I always do at the start of this hour and read a few of the WhatsApp messages that you always send, because, you know, we try and mix it up nicely. Some people will not record a voice note or call in indeed, but they express themselves better when they type it out and put it in writing. I want to start with I don't know if it's a lighter one. If you are a Sundowns supporter, it's perhaps not a lighter one. Temba in Rustenburg says, Thulas, I'm worried as a Sundowns supporter. Our glory days are now over. This is the worst Sundowns team I have ever experienced. It's a shame, says Temba in Rustenburg. I don't know, Masandawana, do you agree with Temba? I know that a good friend of mine surprised Siema every time Sundowns plays. He'll be lamenting, we still don't have a coach. We are playing without a coach. I still maintain we still don't have a coach. So, you know, it seems the tears are flowing, at least on the part of Sundowns as well. Well, let me not say tears, but it's perhaps not what it used to be. And Masandawana are not used to being in that particular space. Lindiwe has two takes on two issues. The first one is about the DA and the ANC. And Lindiwe says the DA has been teaching the ANC free lessons on leadership and accountability. But the ANC won't learn because they are for corruption and non-service delivery. You'll hear Ramaphosa pacifying the nation with, quote unquote, our people. So I think that's a comment ahead of the State of the Nation address that's coming up on Thursday. So Lindiwe expects to hear a whole lot of our people in that speech. Then also Lindiwe on the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry then says they are wiping each other out. All the remaining 8 suspects on the list must be arrested this week, starting with Julius Mkhwanazi, says Lindiwe, as far as that situation is concerned. And then I want to read one that has to do with the Afrexim Bank and the $8 billion program that they are putting together to support South Africa's industrialization and just diversification of the trade within the African continent. Temba from, not Temba, this other person unsigned says 8 billion rand, it's $8 billion, says it rings alarm bells. Greedy, corrupt politicians waiting to get their hands on it. And who can blame you for being cynical? Who can blame you? Is there something we've not experienced as far as issues around management of financial resources go? I don't know if it will work in that way, as in, they'll put it in an account, or is it various components that go to supporting different aspects, extended as loans, grants, etc. But hey, who can blame you for being cynical given everything that has happened in recent years? And then a message from Jan says, Jan in Cape Town then says, you can build all the new reservoirs all you want in Johannesburg, but if you don't increase the supply lines sizes to match the new demand of new reservoirs and the sizes of new reservoirs, those new tanks will remain dry and only fill at a limited point. Mark, a plumber from Durban. Oh, it's Mark. Okay, I read the wrong message. It's not the one from Jen. This one is from Mark, who is a plumber from Durban, saying that you can build all the reservoirs you want, but, if you don't fix the system as a whole, you will continue to have problems. And also talking about new demand. And that's a real issue, isn't it, in the city of Joburg, that new developments have come up, but you've not seen that being matched by an increase in capacity, the reservoirs and other parts of that infrastructure. Jan's message is, isn't it suspicious that the only witness to the suicide of Witness D was his partner? When is the police? When are the police investigated? When is the police being investigated? It's too weird, too convenient, says Jen. Jen, there's a video. Because it happened at a filling station, so there's CCTV footage. Obviously for obvious reasons, as SABC, we are not showing that video for obvious reasons. I know that it's been shown elsewhere, edited. It must be said. But you ask yourself, what's the value of? You can allude to it and say, we've seen video footage of this incident without necessarily showing it. But, that's a separate debate. All I'm saying is that there is video that is out there from the service station. All right, let's keep the conversation going. The number to dial, 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes, 0614 104 107. With that said, let's get into it. The third hour of the Monday edition of the Morning Brief.
Welcome to it. This is season 1 of Playlist happening right here at Maloka, and believe me, it's a party.
Set your reminder, every Friday, 9 p.m. Playlist at Maloka is in the building.
Eskom is upgrading old electricity meters with modern smart meters, giving you clarity, control, and confidence. With your new meter, you'll be able to see your usage in real time, giving you the power to manage your electricity with ease. Smart meters are accurate and help Eskom respond faster to issues. Please allow their authorized installers access to install your new meter. For more information, visit the Eskom website. Eskom, redefining for a better future.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
15 minutes after 8, and the next conversation is brought to you and sponsored by Northbound Processing. And we're talking about the circular economy and the byproduct, what they're calling a byproduct revolution. And that the theme there is moving from liability to asset, particularly in the gold sector, unlocking gold value from mining and processing byproducts. So we're told that the gold industry is shifting. Valuable gold is increasingly being recovered from mining and processing byproducts that were once treated as waste, creating new profits while improving environmental outcomes. Let's speak to Annie Lai King, who is Chairman of Northbound Processing. Good morning to you, Ernie, and thank you for your time. So when we talk about the circular economy and byproduct revolution, the mining that involves products that were previously treated as waste, but now extracting value from that, what are we talking about? How big a phenomenon is that?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. The mining byproducts that we're talking about, it was really essentially regarded as waste material from the mine that was produced within the mining operation. So it includes things like spent carbon, grease, rubber liners, steel liners, wood chips.
And I apologize. We are battling with your line. So I don't know if you are in a noisy space, and I imagine you are. If you are able to move slightly away, and if you're holding the phone, if you have us on hands-free, perhaps you might want to hold the phone and take us off hands-free. So pick up then. You were explaining what this phenomenon is that we're talking about.
Can you hear me now?
It's much better, yes.
Much better now?
Yes.
Okay. The waste the byproduct that you are referring to is really essentially waste products that's produced by the mines during the mining production process, and it includes things like wood chips, grease, rubber liners, steel liners, spent carbon. And in terms of the mine's environmental obligations, these byproducts, these waste byproducts need to be treated. So what we do at Northbound is we take this byproduct and we process it, because in this byproduct are gold particles. Now, previously it was seen as a liability, but because of where the mining industry is going, and the yields are declining, it's getting harder to mine, you are able to produce per ton a much greater yield of gold compared to traditional mining methods. So with a very large mine, you're probably getting anything between 5 grams to 10 grams of gold per ton. In terms of our processing operations, we're able to get between 25 grams and 30 grams per ton. So the above-the-ground resource, this is an above-the-ground resource, gold-bearing resource, and we're able to process it in an environmentally friendly manner and enter into the circular green economy to not only assist the mines with their environmental liability, but to be able to extract gold in a very efficient way, in a very sustainable way. So the United Nations Environmental Program, for example, estimates that there's 1 billion tons of mining byproduct waiting to be processed. So it's becoming a very critical pillar of gold supply, and a very ready gold supply, and also very important in the secondary green circular economy. And there's a potential that can't be ignored. And with the rising gold price, it makes the secondary green circular economy very, very attractive.
Yeah. And other than the amount of ore that you have to mine to get an ounce of gold in traditional mining, in what other respects does the gold byproduct mining differ from traditional gold mining? Does it, for example, reduce the costs, and do we see a difference in yield, that the yield is actually better?
The yield is definitely better. That's a good question that you ask. As far as traditional mining is concerned, it's really capital intensive. It's a long payback period. There's significant risk, construction risk, geological risk. There's all parts of costs involved in identifying the resource discovery. In the circular green economy that we are in, this is an above-the-ground abundant resource. It's not as capital intensive as traditional mining methods. It's environmentally friendly. There's a rapid payback. We're not talking years of payback, but instead months. And there's no need for lengthy resource discovery.
So tell us a bit more about the work that you do then as Northbound Processing. We're told you are the largest specialist processor of gold-bearing byproducts in the country. What does that entail?
As far as Northbound is concerned, we have capital-intensive fit-for-purpose plant on a 32-hectare site. If you wish to replicate what we're doing, you probably have the plant that we have. You spend 500 million. It's not as capital intensive as a mine, but it is capital intensive relatively. We have a 32-hectare site. When we deal with the mines, the advantages of dealing with it is we allow complete transparency, efficiency. Our commercial terms and the cash flow that we give the mines are very attractive. We have 40 years experience. We have the size, and also we have the convenience and the dependability that we afford the mine. So we take their byproduct, which essentially waste materials, assisting them with their environmental obligations, and at the same time, the yields that we get out of this byproduct, anything from 25 grams to 50 grams a ton, is far more efficient than, say, the 5 to 10 grams a ton that traditional mines are saying.
So lastly then, Ernie, why is this a conversation for now? Why should investors and the public care about this shift that we've been discussing towards mining gold byproducts? Why is it a conversation for this moment?
I think from an economic point of view, from a commercial feasibility point of view, a return for investment point of view, it's really, we're really seeing a structural shift in traditional mining. So with the abundant resource that's available and with the particular knowledge and the models that we have,
Original witnesses. This follows the conclusion of testimony by former KwaZulu-Natal Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Moiponi Noko, on Friday. And a conservation facility at Oudtshoorn in the Little Karoo has received an International Conservation Award at the recent World Economic Forum in Davos for pioneering the use of artificial intelligence. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, still very heavy on your way to Pretoria. This one's worth avoiding, the N14, the Kruger